is Terry Bradshaw, quarterback, Pittsburgh Steelers.
It's 7:15. There's a new home run champion of all time, and it's Henry Aaron.
This is baseball, Major League Baseball. And this is
ABC's Monday Night Baseball, live from Fenway Park in Boston, Massachusetts.
Looking. He's under the gun. He's tied. He throws. It is.
The agony of defeat.
Frazier! Down goes Frazier! Down goes Frazier!
May 6th, 1974. Thanks for joining us on the Past Our Prime podcast. Bill Mahoney, Mark Hoffman, join me as always.
You got it
Scott.
right.
I did. I wrote it down. Didn't want to forget it. My name's Scott Johnston. It's a weekly look back at the world of sports from 50 years ago, guided by issues of Sports Illustrated from back in the day. This one has Flyers great Bobby Clark on the cover. We'll talk with another Flyers great today from the Stanley Cup champion team, Hall of Fame goaltender Bernie Perron, and a legend in Philly, still going strong today, 50 years after the Broad Street Bullies won the first of 2 straight cups. So first I want to bring up, first of all, how are you guys?
Fantastic. About you? It's good to be back.
Doing well, yes.
Great
I know.
to be
it
back.
Seems like it's been forever, doesn't it?
Yes.
I have one monkey to throw in the wrench. You know, you finally got our names right, but I've officially petitioned to change my name to Mark Mahoney.
Oh, all right.
Thank you. It's about time, buddy.
I know.
Grab you a shillelagh.
I'll start. We'll be the first to call you that from now on. Okay.
Yeah, you're done, buddy.
Mark Mahoney.
There you
There
go.
it is. I wanted to ask you guys, because it's a hockey issue here, what do you think is the hardest thing to do in all of sports? And I'll let you think on it first for a little bit. And I'm going to throw out that for me, I would say playing hockey, because I've skated a few times. It's not a pretty sight. Asking me to skate backwards would be someone's going to the hospital if that happens. Good chance it's me, but a better chance it's someone much smaller than me. So I'm taking out a kid or a few kids. But, you know, think of that. You're skating 100 miles a minute. We'll just say you're skating forward at this time.
Yeah.
You got guys who are whacking you with a stick or checking you into the boards, shoving you.
Elbows up.
Hitting
in the head.
You know, they want to fight.
Yeah, that's right.
What? And so just to stay on balance would be, you know, you would think that would be enough. No. You've got to, you know, shoot this little black thing on the ice. On ice, okay? You're on ice. You ever walked on ice?
And it's moving.
Right? And you've got to shoot it not just into an empty net, but there's a guy there trying to stop it from going in. They make it look so easy that you're like, whatever. It's an unbelievably difficult task. So I'm going with just, you know, your everyday, you know, run of the mill playing hockey.
Okay, I agree with you. I'm going to agree with you, but I'm going to say, to me, it's baseball, and it's something you and I just talked about. Stephen Lang said, yeah, you know, you got this little ball coming at you. He goes, okay, you can get decent at it if it keeps coming straight.
Yeah, Stephen Lang, the
actor
when he was
on our show playing Babe Ruth.
And when he was
with Rod
Carew.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, and he said, Rod Carew said, let's now try the curveball. So here you've got this ball. It's moving every which way, and they're saying, yeah, just hit it where they ain't.
Right.
You know? And I'm thing is having been around, we've all been around big league pitchers, and when you see that ball move, it's going left, right, down, up, over. Yeah, I think that to me is the toughest.
Well,
thing.
you know, it's funny because we were at an A's game this spring, and you know, we're watching, you know, game after game after game after game. And out of nowhere, Paul Blackburn's pitching for the A's, and he throws a pitch. I don't even think it struck the guy out.
No.
I think it was like a 2-1 count. And he
it
throws
was
a
curve.
pitch.
Yeah.
And Bill and I both at the same time go, that was a really good pitch.
No one's you're not going to hit that.
And he went 6 hitless that day.
Yes,
you know,
he
and
did.
he's been pitching very well all season long. But that pitch was just like, wow. And, it doesn't usually stop you in your tracks. So we always think, okay, Lang said fastball.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
Rod said, all right, now we're going to throw you a curve.
Yeah.
And he said he almost threw his shoulder out. But
Yeah.
imagine this. Imagine if they were telling you, okay, curve. And you're ready. And then without telling you, they throw you something 98.
Yep.
Or-
98 with movement.
Right,
Not
right.
98 down the middle.
Or it's
not even
riding
movement.
up in the zone and coming
Yes.
towards your head.
Yes.
And
Right.
you're like, whoa.
Right. And you're expecting it to curve. And
Yes.
it doesn't. It
So,
doesn't. All right. So the old hit of baseball. No question.
Yes.
No
Okay.
question. Mark, what?
And I would agree with both of you. I mean, hockey, guys can only be on the ice for 2 minutes at a time because
If that. Yeah.
and they're wearing like 8 layers of clothing, Think about, if you wear 8 layers of clothing, even if it's cold outside, you're sweating like crazy. And baseball, if you fail 7 out of 10 times, you're an all-star,
Right.
300 hitter. But I have to come up with something different. So I'm going to say Tour de France bike riders.
Oh,
These
good.
guys ride 70 miles. Sometimes it's all uphill on a stage. I can't even stand on the bike going up and down my block.
But it's also at altitude.
Right.
Yeah, altitude.
And just the conditioning these athletes have to be in
endurance,
to do it, and then do it the next day, you know, and the next day, and the next day, and the next day. That to me is just insane what they have to do.
No, that's a very good point.
All for a yellow jersey at the end of the day.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And then the
That's
one
good, Mark.
that I've had someone else tell me in the past that they're like, we watch it from afar and it looks like, oh my, but imagine being a jockey, and you're in the midst of 3, 4, 5 horses all jumbled together, these big beasts, and they're going, and you got dirt flying in your eyes, and we just look at it like, oh, look, they're on a really fast horse, but that sounds terrifying.
It does, but also if you think bull riding.
Oh my God.
I mean, bull riding, you're going to get kicked. These guys are coming out and their legs are going a zillion miles an hour, and the only thing they're aiming for your head.
Right.
And then they have those clowns come out. They don't do anything.
Yeah, it's the only sport where you can stay on something for 10 seconds. You're a champ.
Yes.
You know?
They go,
Oh my
good
God,
job,
10,
Smokey.
5. Yeah.
Yeah, it's 7 seconds, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
Scorecard. I'm going to go with Cushion Night in White Sox Park. It was last Saturday following the end of Chicago's rough week, which bottomed out when they played Detroit. They were getting their butts kicked again, and the cushions started flying around the stadium like frisbees in a tornado, it said, before the crowd stopped bombing the entire place with these cushions. Tigers manager Ralph Houck said that's enough, and he took his team off the field. So, yeah, and this is on the heels of, was this after demolition night? At least, or
Before, I think.
It was
wasn't it?
before.
Yeah,
before.
yeah,
and
before.
And was
Yeah,
that
the second, it was between double headers.
Oh,
it was the
that's
second
right.
game before doubleheader,
Well,
and they had to
well,
shut the game down.
and-
But, yeah. Now, you guys will be able to correct me on this. Wasn't they said that the next night for the White Sox, or not the next night, but the next giveaway was coffee mug night? Wasn't
Yes.
that part of the thing?
They were worried about that.
Yeah.
They're
So
like, let's rethink this.
Yes. Do you remember games used to give out those little bats? They used to give out.
Oh,
when
yeah,
I was a kid,
yeah. I
They were
love that.
so cool.
Yeah.
Nowadays, there'd be murder.
They would be.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Yeah, Roy Firestone had a funny bit where he would do, I think it was Harry Carey announcing a game, or it was the generic announcer, and he was going, come tomorrow night for hard liquor and handgun night,
Nice. They said it. I like the Toby Hara quote where he said about his small town, the telephone directory has only one yellow page. And I thought that's so apropos because the other day we got a phone book sent to us in the
really?
mail. And Amanda was like, my wife, I didn't know they still made these things.
They
Which
do?
They do. There's still phone books.
Wow, you should have brought that in. That would have
Right?
been.
Yeah.
I've got Bill Curtis. He's the CBS anchorman, or was the CBS anchorman in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
He said after hearing allegations of drug abuse by the San Diego Chargers, he said the way the Chargers played last year, the drug must have been formaldehyde.
Let's move on to the revolution, the pro football revolution
Yes.
by Tex Mall. It's about 9 radical rule changes designed to change the game, and some people like them and some people don't like them. The first one is goalposts. I never knew when they finally did this.
Yeah.
Are going to be moved from the goal line to the end line.
When I first started watching football, the NFL, in 1968, the goalposts were at the start of the end zone.
Yeah.
And if you look at old
Why?
video, it's really funny because sometimes you'll throw a slant over the middle to a guy near the goal line, and he's got to avoid the goalpost
Yeah.
at the same
But I'm
time.
saying,
you know?
why?
Well, so does the quarterback.
Yes.
Right?
So that's another reason why they eventually moved it. I mean, it created more space, but also like the safety of the players. It was
Safety
nuts.
of the players. It was like having another defender.
I just wonder how many guys got injured. I mean, you'll never know that ran into that. I
Right.
mean,
You know, it was-
even on an off play, you know, the other receiver.
Right.
Just-
But you know who was upset about this rule is some of the kickers like Tom Dempsey.
Oh, for
Yeah.
sure.
Because Yeah.
Dempsey said, I
Lost
would have
it.
never set that record of 63 yards at the time if the goalposts were at the back of the end zone because it would have been a 73-yarder, and they wouldn't have let him try it.
Right. The kickoff is from the 35-yard line. It had been at the 40.
But one last thing, too, on the goalposts. When the goalposts were at the front of the end zone, a lot of times you would have kickers would kick the ball and it would be short, and you'd have more returns off of missed field goals,
Right.
which
That
you
never
don't
happened.
have now.
Yeah. After a missed field goal, the ball returns to the line of scrimmage or the 20-yard line, whichever is farther from the goal line, which would mean much fewer field goal attempts.
Yes.
So yeah, they're basically really changing the kicking game.
Yeah.
The next one is on punts and field goals. The offensive team may not move downfield until the ball is kicked.
Mm-hmm.
You still get a lot of those, legal man downfield penalties on those. This is a big one, the fifth one. Wide receivers may not be blocked below the waist. A lot of knee injuries.
Yeah.
Those, now we talk about ACLs and stuff, and those are oftentimes non-contact
Yeah.
injuries. But
Yeah.
back then,
Yeah, you're being hit by guys that are 200 or whatever, 185 pounds going at full speed. Yeah, blow your knee out.
right. Number 6, receivers may be bumped only once after they've gone 3 yards beyond the line of scrimmage. This will drastically help the offense. DBs, not a fan of this particular rule change. Number 7, wide receivers cracking back towards the ball within 3 yards of the line of scrimmage are not allowed to block below the waist.
But wasn't that, and mind you, the crackback block is now, wasn't that Heinz Ward that used to do that? He was
Oh,
such
yeah.
a good crackback blocker.
Yeah.
And they took it out
They
because
took
of
it.
him. Yeah.
Yeah, which, once again, that was the way we grew up watching
Yes.
football.
Because remember, they had the big hits, the
Yeah.
video, big hits. I still
Yeah.
have one.
I mean, I watched highlights of Jack Tatum. Jack Tatum would not be he couldn't play in the
No.
in the NFL now. And
No.
I'm not saying parts of that's not so bad, but
When your nickname's the Assassin.
right.
That's-
When you're most famous for paralyzing a guy.
Yeah.
Number 8, the penalty for offensive holding, illegal use of hands, or tripping. How about this? Those used to be 15-yard penalties.
Yep, I remember. And I think it was an important rule because I don't think it's such a subjective call because you can call holding on every play. To penalize a team 15 yards is too much. So I liked it a lot. In fact, the only 15-yard penalty I think now in football is a personal foul.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, unsportsmanlike conduct.
Yeah.
There used to be ties in the NFL all
Yeah.
the time. They instituted a 5-minute sudden death overtime. Now it's 10 minutes. I think at one point it was up to 15.
This was 15.
Oh, it was 15. You're right. 15-minute sudden death overtime.
And I think the first score won it. There wasn't
Right.
like if you kick
Sudden
a field
death.
goal, you get
Nope.
the other team gets the ball. It was
Nope.
like first team that scores.
Yeah. Even the crusty Norm Van Brocklin approves of the sudden death rule. Somebody remarked it was the first nice thing the Dutchman has had to say anything about since his senior year in high school. So he sounds like a real peach. The object of the game is to have a winner, says Van Brocklin. I've always liked that. I like the idea of going home either laughing or crying. Most of the rules that were implemented were designed to help the offense and hurt the defense, and that's been the overriding sentiment for every sport for as long as I can remember. Right? They remember the NBA like in the 90s when games were 74-72 and they were like, we got to fix this. We got to make it so they can't play defense. And,
Right.
You know, I mean, that's always the case.
They've done a good job there, too.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
no,
right. There's no defense.
No defense.
It's interesting. There were a lot of high-scoring games though in the '60s with the old rules.
Yeah. And
So
so the players adapt
Yeah.
and then they change the rules on them so that they can't do. But Redskins linebacker Chris Hanberg said they're turning it into a broads game. Why not make it 2-hand touch? So
And the other day, that's exactly what J.J. Watt said about the game nowadays. Pretty much exactly.
Yeah.
They're turning
Is
into a
that
woman's
right?
game. Yeah.
Is that
Yeah.
So Chris wasn't the most PC, but that same argument about making it two-hand touch continues from JJ and everyone else, right?
Yeah.
Right. Well, they say, though, the 9 rule changes were the most in the NFL since 1933, which might have been back when we got to go from leather helmets to something else, But that's a lot of rule changes, but a lot of them are still in effect today.
But remember, wasn't it back in 33, they didn't allow the forward pass?
Right.
There was no forward pass. It was a run.
Yeah, they've come a long way.
Yes.
Let's move on. Double-barrel derby threat. There was a real worry that as many as 36 horses would try to run in the Kentucky Derby this year. But just imagine that. I mean, I don't know what the most is that they can actually have, but there's just I can't imagine they couldn't have that many.
They were talking about doing 2 races at one point.
That's right. That's right. Judger and Cannonade won stakes races leading up to this race. Some owners reconsidered once they saw how well they did, so it was down to 24. Woody Stevens trains both Judger and Cannonade. It will be his 5th time running a horse in the Derby, and he was due because look at this. He finished 5th his first time, then 4th, then 3rd, then 2nd. So there's only one where to go at that point. And he has Lafitte Pinkai Jr. and Angel Cordero Jr. riding. Not too bad of a tandem there. For more on that race, go back and listen to last week's episode with Randy Moss. We talk a lot about that race in particular and Secretariat and the
Streaking.
Derby and
Streaking.
Yes. Yeah. We touch it all.
Hey, easy on that one. Whoa!
Yeah. Hands on, 2-hand touch.
Yes. You keep your hands off Mark.
Yeah. Don't be pulling my flag.
You're nuts, buddy.
Let's get on. Let's move on.
Yes, let's move on.
A bogey, play it again, Sam. I loved this one. This was a guy named Sam Adams, a golfer.
Not the beer.
Not the beer.
Yep.
And honestly, it's Sam Adams who? Because this guy basically came out of nowhere and won a tournament.
Quad Cities Open.
The Quad Cities Open. He wins the tournament, and he is, getting every inch out of that tournament win, man, because this is the end of the year tournament where all the winners of the tournaments go. And, you're talking about Johnny Miller, Lee Trevino, Nicklaus. You're talking about the who's who of golf. And there's 23-year-old Sam Adams from Boone, North Carolina. Now, get this. Not only was that the only tournament he ever won, but he wasn't even making cuts.
No.
He in 13 tournaments, he didn't make the cut 12 times.
Remember what they said? They said he had a habit of playing golf on Thursday and Friday and then driving down the highway on Saturday. That was I can do that.
But the thing that was remarkable about him was that he was a lefty, and this was before Phil Mickelson, Bubba Watson. He was a lefty, and I think he was the first lefty to win a tournament at that time. So
think of that.
Yeah,
Wow.
so he was a different character being a southpaw,
Let's move on to our cover story. It's Saki, the way they play it here. It's about the Broad Street Bullies and the Philadelphia Flyers. They came into the league in '67, the expansion of '67, and they had pretty much stunk for the most part. But '74, they start to put it together. And it was like a boxing match on skates, they said, because Dave Schultz and Bob Hound Kelly, they were ready to protect Bobby Clark and the others and ready to drop the gloves at the drop of a hat. So, but they could play too.
They sure could.
They were a talented team, and nobody was more talented than our guest that will be joining us shortly, Bernie Perrant, the 2-time Vezina Trophy winner who leads the Flyers to the Cup in '74 and '75.
He might have got him in '76, but he hurt his back.
Right.
So we have no idea. But
Right.
Right.
It's interesting because the article talks about the Rangers series, which actually was the toughest series.
Right.
That whole playoff run, because they had to go 7 games. The other ones was a sweep over the Flames, and then 6 games against the Bruins to win the title.
Right. So Schultz, I don't remember these guys. I'm sure you guys do.
Oh, I do. Dave, you could not love Dave Schultz, the Hammer. He was out there, And mind you, he could play. He could score
Right,
goals.
that's what I was going to say.
He was like a Bob Probert. He could get out there and
he
score
scored
goals.
20 goals,
He did.
you know.
He did.
Unlike the other guy, Kelly, who said
Yes.
they don't pay me to score goals.
No.
I think he scored like 4 or something
Yes.
like that.
But I'm saying Dave Schultz was a player. He could just beat you up at the same time. In his 4 years with the Flyers, he had almost 1,400 penalty minutes.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
unheard
it's
of.
just unbelievable how. I mean, I don't know how you fight that much, but he did, and I loved him. He was with the Kings toward the end of his career.
Oh, is that right?
Oh yeah, I loved him. The Hammer, yeah, no question.
You know what's interesting is the relationship of Philadelphia and the Flyers, because again, the Flyers don't come in the league till '67, and you know the Phillies had been there forever. Prior, you had the
Yeah.
A's in Philadelphia for so many years, the Eagles, you had the Warriors, and then the 76ers. So this is a really new team. But if we think of Philly sports today, the Flyers rank right up on top
question.
there.
No question.
So it didn't take long, 7 years, for this expansion team to become a Stanley Cup champion and kind of start to win the hearts of the city.
And their coach, you know, they basically stunk, and he looked at who they had on their team, and he was like, you know, we have to be tough. That's what we have to do. That's who we have here. So Fred Sherrill, their head coach, adopted this style that worked with their guys. And then he says of his enforcer, Dave Schultz, he says, there are 3 things that make a hockey player: speed, skill, and strength. Schultz, he realizes he doesn't have speed or skill. so what is that? What's he here for? He's here to beat up the other guy. And so he really embraced a style of play that would not be allowed in today's rules. You could be tough, but you couldn't play that way.
They've taken it out.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, even if you look at Sherrill back in the time, he was the first guy to have an assistant coach. They didn't have that. They said if you need an assistant coach, why do we have a head coach? Well, you don't need if you need someone else there.
Imagine
so he was,
that.
Nowadays, how many of the goalie coaches, forward coaches,
Strength and
strength
conditioning.
coach, they have everybody. He was the one that introduced that. He was just, obviously a Renaissance hockey guy.
They go on to win that series, as you mentioned, Mark. It was a tough one against my boy Tom Murray's New York Rangers in 7 grueling games to advance to their first ever Stanley Cup Finals to take on Phil Esposito, Bobby Orr, and the Boston Bruins.
Did Tom Murray ever talk? Have you talked to him about that series ever?
Not this one in particular, no. But
I'm sure he has an opinion.
I'm sure he's not a big Flyers guy.
No.
And their secret weapon was, well, not really a secret. Bernie Parent was the best goalie in the league, hands down. The Vezina Trophy winner in '74, again in '75. He played his best when it mattered most, stopping 30 shots in the Game 6 clinching 1-0 win over the Bees to capture the Flyers' first ever cup, while winning the Conn Smythe Award, which is the MVP of the Stanley Cup Finals. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And he liked that so much, he did it again the next year. So 2 years in a row, the Conn Smythe winner. There's 2 other guys who have done that. Bernie was the first. You may have heard of him, Mario Lemieux and Sidney Crosby. So 3 Hall of Famers. Bernie's a Hall of Fame goaltender, and he joins us now on the Past Our Prime podcast. Bernie, thank you for joining us today. How are you, my friend?
Well, thank you, and I'll stay quiet. I'll just listen what you have to say. It's beautiful.
Sure,
Yeah.
we can just
Thank you.
we can just have you there. I'll go through all your accolades, and then we'll
you
say
can
goodbye.
clap, and you can just clap and go, yeah.
Yeah.
Bernie, those Flyer teams were really tough. That was the reputation, the Broad Street Bullies. But did that overshadow how good you guys were as well? How talented a team this was?
Well, they definitely Keith Allen was the GM then, and brought in the right players. But I share this with a lot of young kids in sports today, which is very important. And in the world of business, for that matter, you don't succeed by yourself. You succeed as a team. Yeah, and this is what we learned. Those 2 years. That if we wanted to achieve winning the Stanley Cup, the only way we could do it was to work as a team, from the coaches, the players, the fans in Philly, and on, and that's how you achieve your success.
And that's how you end up winning and holding up the cup. But and that's certainly true. But from a personal standpoint, man, you had 2 years in a row that, if you were writing a script, no one would believe it. The Conn Smythe Award winner, shutouts in clinching games. Do you ever look back on what you did and just kind of like marvel, like, sounds like someone else did this?
Yeah, I'm very, very grateful. And you know what changed me was when I got traded from the Flyers to Toronto. Think about this. And when I spent 2 years in Toronto, I spent the 2 years with my idol since I was a little kid, Jacques Plante, who played for Montreal all those years. Now there he was in Toronto, sharing the games with me, and I watched him play. I watched him practice, and finally I asked him. I said, "Jacques," I said, "can you teach me?" And he said, "Of course I will." So I learned how to visualize, anticipate the shot if it was a left-hand shot coming out, against a defenseman, or versus a right-hand shot. And he taught me also to communicate with the defenseman. So, for an example, was when the guy came down with the puck, a lot of players would go for the puck. And with Plante was always have the defenseman go for the player. So if it's a left-hand shot, the shot will go towards my glove blocker. If it's the right-hand shot, then the shot will go to my glove side. Mm-hmm. So those are the things that I learned from Plante that really helped me down the road there.
I had read where you obviously played with Jacques Plante and he taught you a lot. I had read that your sister lived three doors down from him, and you knew him as a kid and he helped give you advice then. Is that true? And how amazing was that?
Yeah. They, as a matter of fact, his sister lived next door to us. And I'll never forget when he would come down once a summer with a big convertible, right? And then he would park in front of the house. And I was in the kitchen, hiding behind, the glass a little bit, and just to watch him walk with the cowboy hat on and walk, the way he walked around. And my God, he was and will be my idol the rest of my life. That's for sure.
After those years in Toronto, you go and play in the WHA for a year with the Blazers in Philly. What was that experience like? And then talk about getting back to the Flyers the following year, which started your amazing run.
Well, they and I shared this with the young kids too, and some older people for that matter. If you feel good about a situation, why not give it a shot, and see what would happen. I had played 2 years in Toronto, and think about the story here. It's amazing how it worked out. I had played in Toronto for 2 years. Then the World Hockey League came in, and received a phone call from them. And they asked me, "Would you like to join us?" So I said, "Let me think about it, and I'll call you back." And a couple of days later, I called them back, and the whole thing, everything I had learned from Plante, I knew that if it didn't work out, I would come back to the National Hockey League. So I called the World Hockey League, and I said, "Yes, I'll join you." So the team, as a matter of fact, I flew to Florida because it was in I forgot the town now, but it was in Florida. And then when I signed, I came back, and halfway through my flight back to Philly, I found out that the team had moved to Philadelphia, Screaming Eagles. So I played. I played for the team, and we played in front of 500 people, and I was used to play in front of 18,000. Makes a big difference. And I didn't like it, and I said, "Well, let me go back to the National Hockey League." And when I went back, the rule was you had to go back to your original team. So, went back to Toronto, and 2 weeks later, Toronto traded me back to the Flyers. And then the following year, we won the 2 Stanley Cups. So, what I'm sharing here is at times you have to say yes in life and experience what's going on, and then learn a lot from it and move forward. Beautiful things will happen.
Yeah, and you take those experiences and then you wait for your opportunity. Isn't that what it's all about, Bernie? You have to get that opportunity and be ready once it comes.
Of course, of course. And I knew what I had learned, again, what I had learned from Blount, that to go back to National Hockey League, I'd be ready, you know. And it's just amazing, the timing and how it happened for me to get back to Philly with the a great team, and to win the 2 Stanley Cups is just a beautiful, incredible experience.
And you got to tell me, I mean, I look at your stats in 1974. You started 73 games, 47 victories with 12 shutouts. Come on, that's a video game. That doesn't seem right. How did you do that?
Well, I was hoping to get maybe 14 shutouts, but I only got 12. So.
Yeah, what happened in that game against Detroit?
Yeah,
and the thing is, his goals against was 189.
But you accomplish something like this. I'm the goaltender, right? So you're saying, how did this happen? And it happened, not just as a goalie, the experience I had that I learned from Blount. But the hockey team, when like I said earlier, you win as a team. Good communication with the defenseman, and good communication with the forward. So everybody knew exactly what the players would be in certain situations, and it helped us to overcome whatever the other team had to offer inside of our blue line. So it's something I learned, and it will always stay with me. And I shared this with people, and I'm repeating myself, but it's important. You never win by yourself. You win as a team. And we had a great team now.
Wasn't there a story that, was it at the clinching game when you win the cup, and I believe it was 1-0, and you start looking up at the scoreboard and something disastrous almost happened?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The first game, the first Stanley Cup, we're at home against Boston, and we're leading 1-0. Think about this: we win the game, we win the championship, Stanley Cup, and the face-off when, like I said, in Boston, and the referee linesman dropped the puck. The puck goes to Bobby Orr, and then at the same time, I'm looking at the clock. Think about this. And then I realized that Orr had shot the puck, okay, all the way across the ice. And he missed the net, I think, by about like 12 inches or something like this. And that's when I look up and I said, "Thank you, Lord." That would have been a big mistake, that's for sure.
Thankfully, that's just a footnote in history. But I want to go back to that moment. The horn sounds, and you're Stanley Cup champions. And like you said, it's not just you, it's with these guys that you've been with. Can you recreate that feeling that you had at that moment? Is it indescribable?
Well, yes, it's difficult at the time when it just happened, when the game was over, everybody jumped, and on the ice, and came the focus point was the goalie, and we all hug each other, and when I look back, I look back at that time, maybe 3, 4, 5 minutes we're hugging and cheering and the whole bit. I don't know. I don't know if I realized or not that we had won the championship. That's how powerful that feeling was.
Right.
And then after a while, when with Larky, I was holding the Stanley Cup, we skated around the ice. Then it hit me and said, "Oh, wow, we won the Stanley Cup. How about this?" But you know what? You have to be lucky in life sometimes. And I was lucky because if Orr had the better aim from back there, he could have scored a goal.
Right.
You know, with 10 seconds to go. So I'm very, very grateful for that. Yeah.
They say it's better to be lucky than good, but in your case, you were both lucky and good. How much has the game changed since you've been playing? What is it like to be a goalie in today's game? Maybe that's different than when you were playing it.
Well, the game has changed tremendously as far as the goalies and defense are concerned. And the goalies, I'll go briefly, you know, with the goalies is that the equipment they're wearing today, they're all wearing the same equipment. And the pads that they're wearing are very stiff. And so if you watch the goalies, they not seldom, they never move their skate sideways when they have to make a save on the ice, a shot on the ice, you know. And because the pads are so stiff, they can't move their feet. So that's why they're on their knees all the time. Okay. So every time there's a shot, you see a goaltender, they're on their knees because they're covering the ice surface, and because they can move with their feet. And then what happened is you can challenge the shooters, you know, and then if the puck changes directions or hits somebody, then you see the goalies jumping and, you know, across, you know, trying to make the save. It's very, very, very difficult. And the whole league is, all the goalies are wearing the same equipment. And then the second thing that I'm not crazy about is I'm talking about when we played, comparing now to when we played. And when we played, the defenseman could move the players away from the site where the puck is and stuff like this. Today, you can't touch anybody. So there's a lot of screenshots from the blue line or whatever. And players can't do anything because they can't touch anybody. So if there's a rebound, the goalie is like fortunate enough to make the save. There's a rebound, then the guy in front of the net really has a chance to get the rebound and put it in. So it's very, very, those two situations are very, very difficult for a goalie. Yeah.
One other thing that I've seen change, and I'm following up on what Bill said about your statistics, is that you started 73 regular season games.
Yes.
That doesn't even count the playoffs. Now you're lucky, you know, if a goaltender starts
they split
45, 50 games, it's more of a shared duty. What do you think of that? I would think that you would think that you really get into a rhythm when you start playing every single day. Yeah.
Oh yeah. You know, and you know, it goes with, if you play 72, let's say 72 out of 77 games or whatever, communication is good with your defenseman, but not just for the goalie, but for the defenseman also, because they know what you're going to do in certain situations. So, you know, it's very, very important to have that communication between the defense and the goalies. You know, so the more games that you play, the better you understand what the defenseman will do, and then better. It's better for the defense to know that what you're going to do behind them in different situations, left-hand shot, right-hand shot, and what they should be doing. Once you understand this, again, I go back to very important word, teamwork. So you work as a team instead as a goalie. You work as a team, defense, goalie, defense, and it really works well.
I got to ask, growing up, I loved Bobby Clarke. I loved him. What kind of player was he on the ice?
Well, Clarke was, you know, without Bobby Clarke, I don't think we win the Stanley Cup. You know, was a great leader, great hockey player, you know, and a great leader, great communicator. You know, many times after the first period, we didn't play like the way we should be playing, and without the coach, just the team. And there was a constructive criticism from Bob always. So it's very important, constructive criticism. And he put himself in that criticism too. So it was a awesome player and a great. He cared about did care about the whole team, And if you had the problem, then they would communicate with you and try to help you in the best that he could. And it was beside being a great hockey player, it was a fantastic communicator, leader. Awesome.
You know, we talked about the Broad Street Bullies, and they were known for dropping the gloves and getting into the penalty box. And I got to think that when you guys went into opposing cities, that it was ratcheted up a bit. I mean, here came the guys that they loved to hate. And I always think of fans that hate the opposing team, that's actually a sign of respect. How great was it for you guys to go into opposing cities and come away with a tough W?
Well, you know what? It was cool. We when we went on the road, you know, we got together as a team. You know, we had dinner as a team. You know, we did everything as a team. And then when we got on the ice, it was the same way. We work as a team. We protect each other as a team. And we had some tough guys. You know, and then the top one, of course, was Dave Schultz. You know, and he was, it was what a great individual, you know. And yet, when we stepped on the ice, he had a job to do, and he did it well. And you know, it's you have the opposite team coming down with the puck, and they know they're going to get clobbered. They hesitate a little bit before they make their moves, and it really made a big difference.
Your career was cut short with the eye injury. How many more years do you think you could have played, and how frustrating was that to have to deal with that?
Well, it was frustrating because it was a stick that hit me in the eye. 5 minutes. It was an accident by mistake, and I remember when I skated off the ice, I knew I was hurt pretty bad with the eye, and I ended up in the hospital, and I stayed in the hospital for 4 or 5 days, and finally they made the adjustment, the correction, and I got some of my vision back, you know, but not enough to keep going, you know, on playing. And I'm the one who, you know, very grateful. I talked to my, you know, the best of the best and Jesus, you know, and I communicate with him a lot. Even today is the same. Very grateful to be healthy and to have good friends. Grateful to be talking to you guys today. Mm-hmm. And you know, it's just that you know, it ended my career, and there was a reason for. I'll probably never know what the reason was for, but now today I got a lot of that vision back and able to enjoy the scenery, you know, the beauty. I love the ocean. I fish and I do a lot of things, and life is very good to me. So I'm very, you know, I'm very, very grateful for all the years that I played, and very grateful how this accident turned out, because my vision is pretty good right now.
Wonderful. Wonderful. You mentioned the fishing and stuff. I know at one point you actually lived on a boat, and I have from a very good source that the name of that boat had something to do with your lovely wife. If you could regale us with that story, I would love to hear it.
Yeah, well, the boat was called the French Connection. Okay, hold on tight, boys. Hold on tight. And my wife is from Italy, so it became the Italian French Connection. How about that? And you know what? I love the ocean. You know, we fish. We go like 80 miles offshore. We call the canyons like Baltimore Canyon, and we fish. We you know, have good friends. You know, you need the crew when you go that far, because the boat is 44 feet. You know, it's a big boat, and and the fun, the excitement we had with good friends, were just you can't buy that. It's just a beautiful thing. And finally, one day, we caught a big blue marlin. Okay, was and we brought the fish in because it died on us behind the boat, and fish was blue marlin was 16 feet long, a couple feet thickness. So we brought it back to Cape Maine, where I kept my boat, and the biologist came in, and first of all, the fish was 16 feet long. I said, and the biologist said the fish was 21 years old.
Oh, wow.
A big female. Yeah, big fish. So that it's once in a lifetime. Usually you catch tuna, you catch dolphins and stuff like this. But just, what? And I'm so grateful. And I thank God quite a bit about all those great years that we went fishing. And you got to read the weather properly, of course. But, beautiful ocean we had all that time. And the fishing and the excitement we had going offshore. Oh, just what a beautiful gift that was presented to me. That was awesome.
There's a yin and a yang in life, and you played a violent sport, hockey. I mean, it's a tough sport. And then the serenity of fishing and being on the ocean kind of gives you, I don't know, a balance, I would say.
Oh, of course. And, that's it. I shared this with a lot of people. There's a lot of ways to enjoy Mother Nature, and for me, it was, to go in the ocean when when we got out the inlet, and then you have that whole ocean in front of you looking, and you're going 80 miles offshore to with good friends, and I smoke a cigar, of course. I love smoking cigars. You smoke a cigar, you have your friends, and you're fishing. Oh, it's a beautiful thing. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
I know you've got all these accolades and these Stanley Cups and MVPs, but I know one of the things you're most proud of is your 45 years of sobriety. Tell us about that journey and how you have been able to make that continue the rest of your life.
Well, thanks for bringing this up. I'm very grateful, not proud, but proud, I guess you could say, but very grateful to have been sober for 46 years. And you do this one day at a time, and you surround yourself with the right people. And I'm not saying people who drink, they're not good people. Most of them are good people, but I don't belong there. I have to realize where I belong. And if I sit in the bar, all night, eventually, I'm going to pick up. So it's very important. So I share with people. I'm in the program. I've been sober for so many years, like you said, 46 years, and I'm, what, life is good. Life, at one time it was part of my life, and I accept that, but it's not anymore. And I'm making better decisions today. If I make mistakes, I accept the fact that I made a mistake and try to do something better. But to be sober, and I I was surrounded by good people too at the beginning, and still I am now. That the people who don't drink, people in the program, and that really helped me to plow through what I was accustomed to most of my life situation where I would drink, and today I look. What, guys? Every day I get up every morning. I look up at the sky and I thank good old Lord for one more day of sobriety. It's very, very important.
You're a wise man, Bernie. You are a wise man.
It's funny. I know. I was just thinking about it's just something I was thinking at the end about Fred Shearer had said before Game 6. win today and walk together forever. Game 6 of the Stanley Cup. And I think we won today by hearing your stories, man. You're absolutely amazing.
Well, a little story quickly about Fred Sherrill. He didn't live far from us. So Freddie would always take me to the airport, when we had a road trip. And pardon me, one time we came back and from the West Coast, and we had won quite a few games, and we were celebrating, and we had a couple of drinks, maybe more than a couple of drinks. And so Freddie drops me up at the house, and then he asked me, it's so funny, he asked me, he said, I'm not so sure how to get to my house from here, right? So I told him how to get back to his house. And then the next morning, he comes up to me, he calls me in his office, and he said, he said, I didn't find my house till 5 a.m. with your directions. But I'm pretty well know what he did anyway. So, but it was so, such a great individual. I love him. I miss him dearly. That's for sure.
So we do a segment on this show called 50-50. I'm going to give you a 50% chance to get a trivia question right from 50 years ago, 1974,
Yep.
when the Sports Illustrated came out. So here's your trivia question. In 1974, a movie came out. It was called Philadelphia, Here I Come. True or false? The movie wasn't even based in Philadelphia. It had nothing to do with Philadelphia.
True or false? Well, I'm a positive person. I'll say true.
You're right. It was actually set in Ireland. It was based on a play, and it was about a guy who was about to head to America the next day. But it was called Philadelphia, Here I Come.
You nailed it.
So you win.
Hey, here we go. We win again. 1-0.
1-0.
What?
Another shutout. Great. That's perfect, because I want to end with this, Bernie. With that movie being Philadelphia, Here I Come, can you talk real quickly about the love affair you have with that city, with the city of Philadelphia?
Well, it's difficult to explain because it's so great, so great. And from the beginning, I remember when we had the two parades in Philly. The first think about this, when they introduced us to the team, the organization introduced us to the city. What was this, in 67, I believe, and they put us on the float on Broad Street, to introduce us to the city. We had more people on the float than we had watching us. There was nobody around, and and then, pardon me, and then as the years went by, we became closer and closer to the family, the city of Philadelphia, and the team, the organization. And when we won the Stanley Cup, we had 2 million people, and I have to share the little story with you. The mayor at the time from Philadelphia, first of all, they told me when I got on the float to go in the front row. So I got the front row. There was one seat left, and the mayor, and I was sitting next to the mayor, and as we move on, and mayor was we're waving to the crowd, stuff like this, and I had a couple of drinks. I was drinking then. And then finally, I watched him, and he was looking at top of the buildings. I said, what the hell are you doing? We're having fun here. You're looking at top of the buildings. He said, I'm looking for snipers. Really? I got up. I said, you're on your own, buddy. Yeah. No more saves.
Yes. I'm not taking one for you. Wonderful. Bernie, the more I do this and talk to Hall of Fame athletes, I realize that the reason oftentimes is because they're Hall of Fame people. And I can't thank you enough for joining us. You were better than even I could have imagined, and we wish you nothing but the best. So thank you so much.
Thank you, guys, and I love you guys. And maybe one day we'll get together and grab lunch.
I would
That
love
would be
that.
great. We would love that.
Yes.
Now the question. I have a question after this. Who's going to pick up the tab?
Mark.
Mark.
No, Scott, Bill.
I'd be happy to. I'd be happy to.
As they say in French, au revoir.
Au revoir, my friend. Thank you so
And
much.
by the way, one last thing, please come here.
Oh, no.
I'd like you to look at my beautiful wife next to me.
The name
right
of
here.
the boat.
Nice.
Here we go.
Thanks, Dylan.
Thanks, Jeannie.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
The Italian
Thank you.
part of
Thank you.
the Italian
That's
French
right.
connection.
There you go. Have a
Thank
good
you,
day,
Bernie.
guys.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
The best.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, there you have it, guys. I mean, am I wrong? You talk to these guys who are, they're enshrined forever in the Hall of Fame, and you go, well, that's why, because the guy's he's filled with wisdom. He's smart as a whip, and you just leave these interviews so impressed with the character of these people.
Yeah, I think it's just. You caught me off guard when you went to me with the question thing, because I was just thinking that Shiro comment about win today, walk together forever, and I was caught off guard because I really wasn't trying to ask. I just thought we all won today. That's an amazing man.
Yes,
I just
it
thought
is.
no win today. I kept thinking we all won today by speaking to him. Here's a guy that has overcome alcohol. I mean that alone,
Right?
Yeah.
That alone,
Right,
forget
that's a
everything he
win.
said, that's a win. And then you add all the things he's done, the way he talks about his wife. We won today by being around him. That's, just awesome.
I think it's positive attitude is what strikes me.
Yeah.
He looks for the positive. He said,
That's what he said about the question.
with the eye injury, with everything that happened with playing in the WHA for a year, as bad as that was, you're grateful for what you have, and life, whatever life delivers for you, and that's an important message that people need to hear these days.
Yeah, I was really impressed.
Yeah, me too.
Great. King of the Road on Two Wheels by Sam Moses. What you got, Mark?
Well, this really hit home for me. Okay, so it's about Kenny Roberts, who's the national champion. So I called my father-in-law, who raced motorcycles, around that time, and I asked him, "Have you heard of Kenny Roberts?" He says, "Absolutely." And he kind of did similar racing. So Kenny did what they call, I guess, the tourist track. So basically, he rode on asphalt. My father-in-law rode on dirt, okay? And my father-in-law in 66, I think he won the Idaho State Championship. It was called 500cc class for that type of motorcycle. But he said that, it's kind of the same principle, but obviously the picture in Sports Illustrated, you can see it's an asphalt run and not a dirt run. Mm-hmm. But to me, we were talking earlier on the show about, what's the toughest thing to do in sports? And this might be one of them, because you think about how fast they're going. And for people that could see or just look up any motorcycle race event, you'll see when they hit the turn, that bike is on an angle, and the right knee or left knee of that racer is inches from the ground. And how they don't just rip their leg apart, I don't know. But at that speed and the way that they angle the bike and their body, it's just, to me, it's just, you have to have no sense of fear to do this.
None.
But no, I was going to say about the Mark Roberts. He said 180, when your front wheel wants to play pogo stick, you don't do nothing. You don't sneeze, you don't hiccup, you don't even breathe. All you do is point it and hang on. Doing something like that, and I can't do any of those, you got to count me out of that.
Yeah.
No,
thank you. He's got the formula right here. Carmen Salvino thinks of his arm as a pendulum now. Not too long ago, everyone else thought he was a yo-yo. He was past his prime, hadn't won a bowling tournament in years. Used to be one of the best bowlers in the world, but that was in the mid-50s. Now he's trying to make a comeback thanks to a guy and an engineer named Hank Lahr. Basically, Lahr came up with this formula. The formula was E total is total energy. ET is the energy of translational forces. You with me, Mark?
Oh, yeah.
ER is the energy of rotational forces, and ELF is energy loss caused by lane friction. So E total equals ET plus ER minus ELF. All right.
I thought it
I thought Elf was that movie with Will Ferrell.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was. I thought it was Buddy.
Of course, this
Shows
means
you where we
nothing.
are.
This means nothing to any human being,
No.
but it meant a lot to them because Salvino basically started to do it again, and he started winning, and then he started to develop balls that would help other bowlers do well, and he made a comeback, and he bowled competitively until he was 86 years old.
Wow.
Yeah. So physically, he was a marvel. He did daily sit-ups, push-ups, and drills during a power failure in Puerto Rico. He walked down 23 flights of stairs to the lobby and realized he had forgotten to put his weighted belt on his waist. So he did what anyone normal would do. He walked back up the 23 flights of stairs, got the belt, and then walked back down again. On the eve of a revolution in Caracas, he says soldiers halted his cab, found some round bombs, and ordered him to stand against a wall with his arms raised. Tommy guns were aimed at him, but he claims he made this difficult diplomatic spare by convincing the soldiers the round objects were bowling balls that had not yet had finger holes drilled in them. So just a character, man. And he had this little dry spell and turned it around and had quite a career. He was also extremely not likable. They didn't like him as a young guy. And much like Bernie, not that Bernie was ever this way, but he just became very grateful that to have this second chance, and he started paying it forward. And it was really a great article. And you know what? Here's what it was. It was one of those articles that I had no interest in reading. And then I read it, and then I did a little research on the guy, and he was quite a kick. So.
I'm finding that with a lot of this.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm finding that.
Well, they're great writers.
Yes, and all of a sudden I find myself, finding other articles and looking up the people personally and thinking, man, this is amazing. That's what a good writer does. It makes you want to go someplace and learn more. But I like the thing about Salvino. He said that he wanted to, make the best bowling ball, so he poured a plastic solution into the finger holes to improve his grip. He placed the ball near a hot plate to help it dry the plastic. Minutes later, the ball was on fire.
Yeah. Hey, that's where Jerry Lee Lewis got the inspiration for great balls of fire.
Very good.
Yes. Yeah. That sounds like me trying to be a scientist.
Yes.
Oh, this should work.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, the house is on fire.
Science was my weakest subject matter.
When you went through all those things, I had a friend of mine, he worked for SpaceX for a long time. That's the type of those little theory things he used to go through, and I'd go, yeah, I got nothing, man.
Right.
I got nothing. It does not.
No, I am not Goodwill Hunting.
No. I mean, I can write on a chalkboard.
Yeah, I can do that.
I got that.
I'm even better at erasing it.
Yes.
Well, it's all arbitrary. You can just sign anything. I'm going to say T5 equals ZY minus.
Mark, but if you said that in a room of scientists, they'd look at it and you go, what the hell's that guy? That'll blow the world up. And you'd be like, sorry.
Well,
my bad.
No. Hand me the Pringles.
Yes.
Midsummer's Night Kickoff. Boy, we have been talking a lot about the WFL for something that basically almost didn't happen. It did, and it folded quickly. Eddie Einhorn was a TV exec, and the key was they had to get WFL on TV. They knew they couldn't survive without a TV deal, and he got one. He got one that was going to be Wednesday nights was when the WFL played, which I had no idea.
Yep.
Right? They didn't want to go up head-to-head with the NFL. And Thursday nights would be the Thursday night football game of the week for 18 weeks. And when asked who was going to play for Toronto until Zonka, Kick, and Warfield got there in 75, without blinking an eye, Eddie Einhorn replied, 3 other guys. So he didn't care who the players were. He was about getting a TV deal, trying to get the funds to make this work for this new league.
And I've talked about TVS before on this podcast because I have fond memories of this as a kid. TVS is I watched games on TVS. Well, TVS basically, let's say KTLA would say, okay, we're going to buy your TVS game and air it or whatever. So they would air on an independent station in Los Angeles. I can't remember if it was KTTV or KTLA or whatever. But for instance, the famous basketball game, UCLA Houston, Lou Alcindor against Elvin Hayes, that was a TVS game. To me, TVS was always synonymous with basketball, especially college basketball.
Well, I like that. Eddie Einhorn was obviously way ahead of his time. Thursday night game. Now it's NFL game.
right.
But they said he had bought the rights to various basketball conferences. And then they said that he owned the basketball rights of every major college conference except the ACC.
Yeah.
I mean, at that point, how far ahead of the game was he that he knew
Right.
you had to get those conferences? It's amazing that it didn't go farther than that, because now ESPN owns the majority of them, and then Fox owns the rest of it. So
Well, and each league has their own network.
that's
now,
right.
too.
That's true.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
true.
Unless you're the Pac-12, Pac-10, Pac-8, Pac-2.
Who are they?
Yeah, exactly.
Let's talk a little baseball. And Greg Nettles was off to a really good start for the Yankees. In 22 games, he had hit 11 home runs, tying Willie Stargell for most home runs ever in the month of April. I don't remember Nettles until I want to say, I know he was part of those Yankees 77 and 78
Amazing
teams.
in those series.
And he had that one series in particular where he just took doubles away from the Dodgers,
defense.
diving to his right, and it seemed like he did it at least once a game.
It was
you know?
a la Brooks Robinson
Yeah.
against the Pirates. It's
Yeah.
that same every ball. I remember that every ball that was hit his way, he scooped it up, got him out. It was an amazing series for Nettles.
Yeah.
The part of this baseball that I am fascinated by is the AL West, when they talk about David Clyde of the Rangers.
Yeah.
So David Clyde was this teenage sensation. He was 18 years old. The Rangers drafted him number 1. And I think within 20 days after his last high school game, he was pitching a Major League Baseball game.
Isn't that amazing?
And they rushed him, obviously, but
Yeah.
he won that first game. But in the 74 season, he actually started off 3-0. And you know when he finished that year?
3-12.
3-9.
Wow.
But that beginning, he was fantastic, and it looked like they had a fine, and then he was out of baseball a few years after that. He beat the Yankees 6-1 in his first complete game at that time. He had a great start, but again, as we see, pitching is such a fickle beast.
Well, Mark, I think you missed an important story there because it's up your alley.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
About Ron Bryant.
Exactly.
Mark, what did Ron Bryant do? Mark, do you know?
Off the top of my head,
He
I think.
became the first major league streaker when he scampered up and down the aisle of the team bus.
I just knew
Mark.
him as Big Ron. We used to go streaking together. I never knew his last name.
Big Ron, that's right.
We're going, Mark, take your clothes off. We're going to go run.
No,
But
no
okay.
truth to the report that John the Count Mountefisto said he's not a giant.
Oh, that's
God.
a good one, buddy.
I do want to say that
Richie Hebner.
Tommy John shut out the Phillies 1-0. He was 5-0 with an ERA of 0.86.
Isn't he coming up on one of our shows?
We are going to
maybe?
have Mr. Tommy John on at the end of May. to
Should be
talk
Hall of
about,
Famer.
Talk about his career. Talk about what derailed his career, and one of the most amazing statistics about Tommy John that I think people know. Baseball people know he won more games after surgery than he did prior to surgery. So we got that coming up next month.
But did you get the one about Richie Hebner?
Go ahead.
Richie Hebner was the Pirates. They visited a local wax museum in Atlanta, and he said that the figures reminded him of the Atlanta fans. They just stand there. But I also want to say, we were talking about this prior to going on, that the Yankees had a big trade. The trade didn't matter. It was just that Fritz Peterson was involved in it. Fritz Peterson recently died. What is Fritz Peterson known for?
The wife swamp.
Yeah. They took their whole families, him and, was it Mike Kekich?
Yeah.
And traded wives, kids, dogs, house.
Well, basically,
and
they traded husbands.
Yes. That's right. The wives, yes.
Everyone else stayed, and the husbands.
Yeah, that's right. That's a good
but
call.
Yeah, but the one of the strange. I can't believe they haven't made a movie out of this. It's so weird.
I've thought about trying to look into seeing if we can get Mike Kekich on.
Yeah.
He would be, I mean, not saying he'd come on, but man.
You couldn't get Fritz?
Well, he's dead to me.
Well, it's
Mark,
like
come on. That's a good one.
I know.
Come on.
Well, like I said in one of the earlier podcasts too, you had Kirk Gibson was with the Tigers and Dave Rozema, pitcher of the Tigers. They married like sisters. They were twins. That's got to be a little weird.
Yeah, but not as weird as swapping wives.
Yes.
Yeah, if you swap twins, that would be even
That would be,
weirder.
But the thing is, Fritz Peterson stayed with Kekich's, whatever, what is it, Kekich again?
Yeah.
Stayed with his wife until he passed away.
Yeah.
where Kekich didn't last very long.
No.
With Fritz Peterson's wife.
No, he was hoping it was a Rule 5 thing where
Yes.
he could be reclaimed by the original team.
Do you think there was a point he ever thought that though? That he was like at home and he's not with his first wife, his ex-wife's gone. He's thinking, what the hell did I do here? I've now got a dog that craps on the carpet, and I got kids that don't like me, and the
I don't
wife's
know who
gone.
these kids are.
Yeah, I don't even know their name.
Right. You would think, but then for them to have done it, maybe they weren't the most critical thinkers. All red, so help them henna. You guys read this one?
I did.
This was a
amazing,
sketch, wasn't it?
Yeah.
This was about a women's hoops team. They say it's the best one in the world, and they're probably right because it's 1974, so there's probably not too many of them. There were barely even college hoops for women. In fact, the 1974 champion college team was Immaculata. Right? A Catholic college in Pennsylvania. So they've come a long way to Caitlin Clark now, and Angel Reese and all the women players. But this was a team called the All-American Redheads, and they crossed the country playing 200 nights a year against men's basketball player. And I use the term basketball players loosely because these guys were like barbers and bartenders and truck drivers and not in shape or anything like that. And these women would come in there and just basically kick their butts. It was basically a kind of a league of their own for basketball.
And I believe they had to dye their hair red.
They did.
Were
That's
naturally-
true. Yep.
I just love that car they had.
Yeah,
That
28-foot limo.
big whitey or whatever it was it called.
I think they should have been in a league with the blondes and the brunettes. And
Yeah.
they could have, like,
That's true,
around.
Mark. That's true.
But and the uniforms look a little bit like the Globetrotters. They have a Globetrotter.
They did.
Have a little bit Globetrotter. The difference being, the Globetrotters played the Washington Generals, who were basically patsies.
Yeah.
Right.
These were not set up games.
They came to play.
They came. If the other team, in fact, their record was 104 and 17. So they didn't win every time, but they won the majority of the times. I like this. Sometimes they would, but they did have a little entertainment value to it. They had one play in particular called the pinch, a routine in which the red-headed comic Spanky Losier pretends that a man has pinched her butt and insists that a personal foul be called. In fact, quote, a very personal foul. The crowd loves it. It's the best and worst of 1974, all rolled into one, Ha ha ha! She's being grabbed. Isn't that hysterical?
Yeah, I don't think that flies today.
Now he'd get decked. But anyway, this guy named Orwell Moore of Arkansas, he owns the team, and they travel. They listen to this. They play a game like in Illinois, and then they drive to Tennessee, like 400 miles away for the game the next night, and then they drive all the way back to Illinois and play there. I mean, they had no traveling secretary,
Nope.
but it was a nice way for these women to make a living because there were no opportunities for women's sports in a lot of.
Yeah, it's the first women's basketball team to be inducted into the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame. So
there you go.
And I didn't realize they were started in 1936.
Yeah, that's right, Mark. That's right. That's a long time ago.
6 decades they played.
And they stopped in 1996.
Is that right?
Yeah, on July 26th, their last game.
24-year-old Karen Logan is the leading scorer, 23 a game. She wanted to play on the first ever USA Olympic team, but because she's no longer an amateur, she's not eligible. She says, I'd give anything to play the Chinese team or the Russians, but that's not going to happen because we never play anyone but has-been men. Faces in the crowd?
I got a bunch of them.
Oh, yeah.
Give me one.
Okay. Let me go two. Cammie Timberlake. She was the first UNC women's. She got the first scholarship to North Carolina. First women's scholarship. But also.
As a what?
In what was it? Tennis. Thank you, Mark. And also Janine Berger. Who did Janine Berger marry?
Mr.
Greg Landry.
Oh,
Quarterback of the Lions.
Oh, I did not know that one. That's
She was the first female All-American in school history gymnastics and the first woman to be inducted into the UMass Hall of Fame. She's married to another member of the UMass Athletic Hall of Fame, Greg Landry, 15-year NFL quarterback.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah,
Nice.
and then Tommy LaCroix was a 10-year-old boxer, 40-1 as a fourth grader, 0-1 pro career.
You know what? The 40-1.
Yeah.
I was the one.
I know.
I took him out.
You did.
Well,
Bring it over, TC.
All right, 19th hole. I got one. Okay. Bob Muller of Martinez, California, he's not on board with this Jenny Foley playing Little League baseball. He says, I don't think girls should play in Little League. Little League prepares boys to play in higher leagues when they get older, and if girls can't play in those older leagues, why should they play in Little League? And I'm thinking, so because we discriminate when the girls get older,
yes,
we should start discriminating when they're younger.
Let them get used to it.
That's quite a solid argument there,
Get
Bob.
used to it.
Oh, so anyway, that wraps up. Unless you guys got anything else you want to partake.
I got one more, 19th hole.
I'm gonna edit it out, but go right ahead.
I like that. Mr. Pat Wilson said he felt that girls should have sports programs equal to boys. However, I don't think girls should be allowed to participate in boys' programs. Take a look at Charlie Brown's baseball team. He has girls on his team, and they've never won a game.
You know, that's a good point.
Well, that's because Lucy keeps pulling a football.
Thank you.
That's because Charlie can't pitch.
Yes.
Yeah.
I want to thank our guest, Bernie Perron. It was just spectacular, as most of our guests have been.
I just can't wait to have lunch with him in Philly. I'm ready to go.
We're doing it. Cheesesteak.
Yes.
And then we could go on the boat and go fishing.
Yes.
Get another marlin.
Tell you what,
marlin,
Mark.
That's right.
You book the flights. I'll buy lunch. Jeremy, thank you. Bill, Mark.
welcome.
Till next week, everybody.
Yeah.
We're past our prime.
See ya.